Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me this afternoon on short notice. The publication of the article in Rolling Stone and the passionate reaction of our students, faculty, staff, parents, alumni, and the members of our community, I think have caused many sleepless nights for all of us who love U.Va. The passionate reaction tells me this: that behavior that was depicted there is not something we will accept as normal, and the actions described by 7 men in the story have betrayed us. We have a problem, and we're going to get after it. The story's raised a number of questions in my mind, and I will make it my highest priority in the coming months to learn the answers. My team is going to spare no effort between now and the time classes reopen for the spring semester. We're going to address these questions. And let me say emphatically that how we answer these questions is not about protecting the university's reputation. It's about doing the right thing. The reputation I care most about is the reputation for following the truth wherever it may lead. We will not be doing business as usual in the spring of 2015. We will fearlessly examine ourselves and our culture, and we will also cooperate fully with the independent investigation that's underway. So first, do we do everything possible to protect every student at UVA? Let me say this: I have been so greatly heartened by the passionate and overwhelming response by the community to the evil acts that were described in Rolling Stone. UVA students and alumni are speaking up loudly and saying this will never be tolerated on our grounds. And yet at the same time, it's been tough to hear from many alumni, some of them from decades ago, who recounted their own negative experience and then wondered sadly if nothing has changed. If there is a subculture that hurts any UVA students or exploits any of our fellow Wahoos, we must find where it hides out and root it out. Examining this question will be a major priority over the next few months. UVA is too good a place to allow this evil to reside. We must make this school a safe and welcoming place for everyone. Second, have we provided the proper emphasis on both supporting survivors and encouraging reporting? We've tried to be responsive to the advocacy groups that emphasize that a traumatized survivor has already had her autonomy taken from her. In the victim-centered approach, the emphasis is on giving choices to the survivors and letting them understand and choose their course of action. And empirically, we find that many survivors do not want to take action, or they do not want an outcome of expulsion for their assailant, or they want to think through the options before making any decision. The very experience of trauma can interfere with decision-making. And on the other side, as Chief Timothy Longo told the Board of Visitors last week, timely reporting is critical to law enforcement. Forensic evidence disappears. Witnesses forget or they move away. If we've chosen the wrong balance, then it's time to change that balance. If our enforcement mechanism is broken, we will fix it. We will also better engage with law enforcement. And this weekend, Chief Longo and I had a conversation about how to proceed with that. One thing we know for sure is that survivors need our support, and we need to provide it to them. But we also need a culture in which reporting is valued and supported by everyone who interacts with a survivor. Every faculty member and every staff member is going to learn how to do this. One faculty member, Joe Allen from the psychology department, has drafted a victim's bill of rights that summarizes in clear, comprehensible language what choices are available. I'm very attracted to the idea of making this kind of information easily available to everyone. Third, what is the role of alcohol? Alcohol does not cause rape, but alcohol is often a tool of the predator. We know that many of our students consume alcohol. From our alcohol education programs, we know that about half our entering class already drinks when they arrive. There is an unacknowledged problem of drinking in high school. Binge drinking is also a problem for us. About 1/6 of our students abuse alcohol in the sense that they are binge drinking at least occasionally. Binging is a serious problem for their health. The student body generally understands that passing out from drinking too much alcohol is a medical emergency. And in the interest of student safety, we've chosen to err on the side of medical treatment rather than punishment, because we do not want to discourage students from seeking help for themselves or for a friend. And although there is a much welcomed long-term decline in binge drinking among our students, there is still too much. I said that alcohol is a tool of the predator. Women and men should know what they are drinking and who is serving it to them. Young women should also understand that their lighter body weight and not eating with drinks raises the probability that a smaller amount of alcohol will have a bigger effect on them. The predators certainly know this. Serving sweet-tasting but high-proof punches to women while the guys sip a few beers is often described as a prelude for taking advantage of the women. But even an alert and careful student who tries the sweet-tasting cocktail that has many types of liquor cannot know how much alcohol it contains. Yet another problem with alcohol is that it can be the vehicle for some other drug to be ingested, unknown to the drinker. Let's call this by its name. This is poisoning, and it should be legally prosecuted as such. We've all heard about the date rape drugs, but they're very hard to detect because their metabolites in the body are so short-lived. A targeted victim may be seemingly conscious, but in fact unaware of her surroundings. And later on, she has no idea what happened to her. It's alleged that this happens in Charlottesville, as I said. The evidence is hard to find. But a determined effort to find the sellers would be welcome. If the predators can find the sellers of these drugs, then law enforcement should also be able to find them. We need to take further steps to educate about alcohol and to encourage enforcement. I will look to the Gordy Center, to ADAPT, and to similar groups on the grounds to offer me their best advice. I want Friday and Saturday nights in the spring to look different from the way they looked this fall. The fourth question is, what is the role of Greek life? Let me be clear about this. In any crisis, it can be far too easy to paint with a broad brush and blindly attack entire groups of individuals. This is not a responsible reaction. It's not fair to the fraternity men who are good and decent people and just as horrified as we are at these disgusting allegations and revelations. In fact, many of the leaders of our campus anti-rape group 1 and 4 are also fraternity members. Moreover, rapes and other sexual assaults occur in apartments, in public venues, and more rarely in residence halls. Nevertheless, there is great concern that a sexual predator can hide out in a fraternity, and therefore that fraternal social activities pose literal dangers to their guests. I've suspended all the social activities at the fraternities until next semester, and 2 fraternal organizations that do not have recognition agreement with the university have notified me that they voluntarily suspended their social activities as well. The university does not own the fraternity houses, and therefore it does not directly control them. What we have is a fraternal organization agreement. When we say we've kicked a university or a fraternity out, what it means is we suspended the fraternal agreement. I am working with the leaders of Greek life to craft new contracts that will provide greater safety for all of their guests during their activities. Our fraternal agreements currently include requirements for training and other behavioral guidelines, but they don't go far enough, and the fraternities also agree. Last week, they presented me with a dozen ideas for reform, which I like, and I have some additional ideas for them. Last night, I met with the president of the Interfraternity Council so that we could share our concerns. I've asked for a proposal in terms of new contracts no later than December 31st. Underage drinking must be an important part of that discussion. I meet tomorrow with the president of the Inter-Sorority Council to initiate a related discussion, and I will also meet with the multicultural Greek societies. But I am also calling today on all of our contracted student organizations to devote some of their spring semester to reconsidering their agreement with the university and the ways in which they support a culture that values friendship over exploitation and service over social status. Both students and faculty have raised with me the issue that there's too much emphasis on the fraternity houses as the locus for social life. Other opportunities for students are limited, especially on Saturdays. These are also issues that we must consider. And the final issue is, what do we do about this? This is a time for us to draw upon the wisdom and research of our faculty members, the creativity and imagination of our students, and the passion and concern of our alumni and parents to find real solutions. A number of faculty groups will be meeting this week and next. I intend to join the Darden faculty later today and the Arts and Sciences faculty at their meeting tomorrow afternoon. My holiday reception on Thursday before lighting of the lawn has been repurposed to a discussion of sexual assault. This week I am authorizing the funding and hiring of an additional trauma counselor for the Women's Center. This action has been specifically requested by the Women's Center and by One Less, a student organization that seeks to prevent sexual assault. We've extended the period of comment on our new sexual conduct policy. We started working on this policy long before the Rolling Stone article, and some of its provisions are mandated by federal guidelines. Our previous policy was developed in 2011 in response to guidance from the federal government. And as we did in 2011, we're asking for public comment on this policy. Please help us to make it better. In January, we've already planned intensive additional bystander training for both faculty and students through the nationally recognized organization Green Dot. Many sexual assaults could be prevented by active bystander intervention, and this training emphasizes how and not whether to intervene. Bystander training reinforces what I believe is the majority view that values every student and his or her safety. In January, we'll be rolling out online training for faculty, staff, and students. This training was developed at U.Va. It is specific to U.Va., and it was not purchased off the shelf. Later in the spring, we'll be conducting a climate survey for all students. The purpose of this anonymous survey is to provide us with information on two things. First, are students aware of our policies? And second, what negative experiences have students had with respect to any sort of sexual misconduct, from verbal aggression to sexual assaults? We know sexual offenses are among the most underreported offenses in the country. We hope that through this anonymous survey, we can gain access to more accurate baseline information about how commonly students experience these things. As we repeat this survey in coming years, we hope to find we have moved the needle towards eliminating sexual violence, assault, and lesser forms of sexual misconduct. Through the spring, we're going to provide additional opportunities for input and discussion, looking at everything from the questions we ask in our admission form to how we direct flow in the counseling centers. We've had success in limiting high-risk behaviors at Foxfield. We need to extend that success to other high-risk events. We will also fund and open a police substation on the corner and provide more joint patrols between Charlottesville Police and University Police, especially on the weekends. We also plan to provide a new type of unarmed security personnel whose job will be to assist students and others on weekend nights in the corner and the Wurtland areas. We intend to implement another phase of our campus lighting plans to increase nighttime visibility. And I am particularly concerned about this around laboratories where women scientists, engineers, and students often work late at night. In the spring, I encourage the Sexual Misconduct Board to find ways to allow students to learn more about their processes. It is time for an open discussion about whom we will and will not tolerate among members of this community. We include students in our adjudication process because we believe student self-governance to be an important part of student life here. This practice has become controversial, and it's important that students consider carefully whether this is still the correct approach. On my wrist today, I'm wearing a bracelet that was given to me last week by a rape survivor. We talked for nearly 2 hours about a brutal assault inflicted on her at another university. I have 3 takeaways from that conversation. And the first is that rape can destroy lives. She is a strong and resilient woman, and she is rebuilding her life, but only after a long period of full-time effort by herself and by her family and work with therapists. Second, rape is not about sex. Her rape was about domination, anger, isolating her, and then making her believe that if she ever talked, something even worse would happen to her. Third, rape's a national problem. It happened at this young woman's college, but it also happens in the military, in the workplace, and in our high schools. Now, our university has been placed at the center of this crisis. We will not shrink from it. We will lead. I will make periodic reports to the community on what we are doing, and you can hold me accountable for our efforts. This is a community of good people who commit themselves to high ideals. This is a community of wise and intelligent people who are able to solve hard problems and create novel solutions. This is a community of determination and resolve, and we embrace change when change is needed. There's a piece of our culture that is broken, and I ask your help in coming together as a strong and resilient community to fix it. Our founder, Thomas Jefferson, reminds us, it is more honorable to repair a wrong than to persist in it. We will repair this wrong. In this dark hour, we will find light. And we will not stop until every student feels safe and secure and free to learn and live and grow. We must do this because our mission is to deliver a great educational experience, and we cannot succeed in this mission if our students are not safe. Thank you for being here, and I'd welcome a few questions from you.
There was a discussion at the Board of Visitors meeting last week about town hall meetings. So I was wondering if you could share any plans that you have for town hall meetings or other public comment periods for students, faculty, and staff members.
Right. I believe that some of the deans are interested in town hall meetings for their own schools, for smaller groups, but I'm also interested in a larger town hall meeting once the spring semester gets underway. And we'll wait to announce time and place on that until we're back in January.
How are you planning to include the Women's Center in all of these reforms and changes?
Well, one thing we heard first from the Women's Center was the need for an additional trauma counselor. The Women's Center is a confidential place where somebody who is a survivor can seek confidential help. We talk with them, and we need more input from them on this question I mentioned about the balance between seeking the maximum autonomy for survivors, but also responsibly reporting. And I look forward to those conversations with them. I think they are an important ally to anyone who is a survivor. Yes?
Are there any plans to form a task force of sorts of students, faculty, staff, administrators?
That is certainly something that we are looking at, and it might be more than one task force differentiated by function, because there are a lot of pieces of this that I think that we need to look at. But we are certainly going to seek the opinion of everybody in this community because it's a community problem. We need all of us together working on it. Ashley?
How are you planning on working with the Charlottesville Police and the campus police in terms of trauma-based investigation? Because that is such a difficult part of reporting, is having a less linear sort of investigation and more a trauma-sensitive process.
Yes, I understand the question. The underlying issue here is that a trauma victim often does not recall the incident in linear fashion, but it comes in flashbacks, rather as with post-traumatic stress disorder, in which, say, a veteran can't necessarily recall linearly what happens, but remembers in bursts of memory the experience. So Chief Longo and I have discussed having a workshop early in the new year, which involves both our people who work with survivors and also the victim advocates and others in the police department who work with survivors. Because as he and I discussed, we realized that we think there are some myths operating on both sides. Myths about, how we think the police operates, and myths on their side about how we operate. We need to get together and communicate about this. And the issue of trauma is a very important one, and having trauma-trained investigators is very important. It's a very good issue. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Be part of the solution with me.